What if the most powerful tool for aging better isn't complicated, expensive, or out of reach? What if it starts with what you put on your plate? Stay tuned. Hi everyone, I'm Barbara, and this is Age Better. Thank you so much for being here, and a very special welcome if you're new to the show. Please follow or subscribe wherever you listen. Leave a review if you enjoy the episode, please. Have an idea for an episode? Email me at agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out on social media. Today's guest is a very big deal in the world of lifestyle medicine and evidence-based nutrition. Dr. Michael Greger is one of the most recognized, respected, and influential voices in this space. He is a physician, internationally known speaker, founder of the nonprofit nutritionfacts.org, and the best-selling author of How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, How Not to Age, and many more. His book, How Not to Die, became a global phenomenon, changing the way millions of people think about food, not just as fuel and not just as a way to manage weight, but as one of the most powerful tools we have to help prevent, delay, and even change the course of many chronic diseases. And now, to mark the 10th anniversary of How Not to Die, there is a new documentary about Dr. Greger's life, his work, and mission. I watched it, I loved it, I've shared it, and we'll include links to the documentary, his books, nutritionfacts.org, and everything else we discuss in the show notes. So take a look after you listen to this conversation. One more thing I love about Dr. Greger's work, well, I love a lot of things, 100% of the proceeds from everything he does, including his books, goes to support his nonprofit, nutritionfacts.org. And this conversation is especially important for women in our 60s and beyond because this is when heart health becomes even more urgent. Brain health becomes more personal. Cholesterol and blood pressure can absolutely shift. Muscle and bone health become non-negotiable. And we start asking bigger questions. What can I do now to protect my health, my independence, and the decades ahead? Today, we talk about the connection between heart health and brain health, what to do if cholesterol stays high even on a whole food plant-based diet, his take on olive oil, it's a big controversy apparently, how women can get enough protein, super important, which nutrients need special attention, what he thinks about creatine, and why eating better does not have to be all or nothing. Lots to talk about, lots to unpack, but all of it will help you age better. Dr. Greger, thank you so much for joining me on Age Better.
I'm so excited to be here.
It's a big celebration because you have a documentary that came out, which I loved. It is called How Not to Die. We're celebrating the 10th anniversary of How Not to Die, which is a New York Times bestseller. Millions of people have read this, including me. What I want to know is, Dr. Greger, so it's been 10 years. Are we any smarter now than we were 10 years ago? Why did you feel like this was the right time to come out with this documentary?
I don't know about smarter. Have you seen the latest dietary guidelines?
Indeed, I have. Would you care to comment?
We have the Secretary of Health and Human Services that's telling people to fry their French fries in beef tallow. It's truly an upside-down world we live in.
And what about more meat consumption? I think we're kind of getting that message as well for more protein.
That's the top of the pyramid, kind of whatever they came up with. It's as if they were designed to support big ag, and then big pharma will swoop in to give us pills to deal with the chronic disease, the epidemics of chronic disease caused by the American diet, which continues to be a leading cause of death and disability. Cigarettes only kill about 500,000 Americans every year, whereas our diet kills even more. And unfortunately, the current gestalt is not helping things.
No, it really isn't. I don't know anyone personally who is going to be following those guidelines.
The problem is that because they're the official federal guidelines, that is what guides the federal government's food disbursement. So what does the military eat? What do the veterans eat in all the veterans hospitals? The federal government actually controls millions of meals, and unfortunately, they will now be adding to the national debt by causing further healthcare crises.
Yeah. So you've always had your work cut out for you, but I think we can agree even more so now than ever before. So your grandmother's story, you start the documentary this way, you start your book with that wonderful story about your grandmother. And really, that's what encouraged you to become a doctor and specifically to have this pathway. That must have made you say how we eat nutrition isn't just a side issue, but it is the main issue.
It's funny because I was just a kid when my grandma was sent home in a wheelchair to die, essentially. And so in my little brain, she went to the doctor, got better. And isn't that what's supposed to happen when you go to the doctors? But little did we know that at the time, we thought heart disease was irreversible. You got worse than you died. She was diagnosed with end-stage heart disease. She already had so many bypass operations, basically run out of plumbing at some point. So confined to a wheelchair, crushing chest pain. Her life was over at age 65. But then she heard about this guy, Nathan Pritikin, one of our early lifestyle medicine pioneers. And what happened next is actually detailed in Pritikin's biography. Talks about Frances Greger, my grandmother. They wheeled her in and she walked out. Though she was given a medical death sentence at age 65, thanks to a healthy diet, was able to enjoy another 31 years on this planet till age 96 to continue to enjoy her 6 grandkids, including me. So that's why I went into medicine. That's why I started the website nutritionfacts.org. That's why I wrote the book, How Not to Die. Originally, that's why 100% of all the proceeds of all my books are all donated directly to charity. I just want to do for everyone's family what Pritikin did for my family.
My audience is primarily women in midlife, postmenopausal 50s, 60s, and beyond. What about this stage of life? Are we underestimating how food can impact our health and wellness at this stage? And what should we be thinking about?
As we get older, it becomes more and more important to treat ourselves better. And the good news is we have tremendous power over our health, destiny, and longevity, in that the vast majority of premature death and disability is preventable with a healthy enough diet and lifestyle. So, for example, the number one killer of women, heart disease, the progression of which can be reversed with a healthy enough plant-based diet.
My next question is about heart health and also brain health. These are the biggest fears, I think, that we all have in this age group is a heart attack, of course, but also Alzheimer's, dementia. What should we really be doing specifically about that? How can we better understand, I think, the connection between those diseases and nutrition?
If there's going to be a trifecta, probably cancer, or breast cancer specifically, would be number 3. And something that surprised me was that even among women with invasive breast cancer, guess what the number one cause of death is? Still, it's not breast cancer. They're still more likely to actually die of a heart attack than for the cancer to get them. Little over half die from heart disease over the cancer. But that just shows how critically important a heart-healthy diet is, because you're thinking about the breast cancer, but your heart may stop before it ever has a chance to itself end your life. So that's why critically important. And interestingly, actually, the very same risk factors, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, that contribute to the development of atherosclerosis in the heart is the same that contribute to atherosclerosis in the brain, in the intracranial arteries, the arteries that feed your brain. In fact, you can do these brain scans. You can show that it's atherosclerosis in the vessels leading to the memory centers in the brain that are associated with cognitive decline and Alzheimer's. So what's good for the heart is good for the head, essentially. And so those with a cholesterol of 220 or more, which is really not that uncommon, have 25 times the odds of ending up with amyloid plaques in their brains 10 to 15 years later, which is associated with the pathology of Alzheimer's. And so critically important. And in fact, the same diet that was shown to reverse the progression of heart disease by Dr. Dean Ornish was put to the test against early Alzheimer's disease and saw the same remarkable reversals. 100% of those in the control group who were told to just eat and live like their doctors told them, their personal physicians, all stayed the same or continued to decline, on average declined, whereas 40% of those in the diet and lifestyle group stayed the same or got better, actually improved cognition 6 months later after cleaning up their diet and lifestyle. And so that's exciting that there's something we can do even about some of these diseases for which we thought there was no real therapy.
It is very exciting. Let's talk a little bit more about cholesterol. I put it out there on social media that you were joining me, and I had a zillion questions, but one of them was about, well, I am following, and this is a quote, I am following Dr. Greger's diet, whole foods, plant-based. I'm doing it. My husband is doing it. Everything's been reversed, so good news there. But her cholesterol level is just not getting down. Her LDL level is just not going down. What is your feeling about statins or anything else? Like, you also talk about the portfolio diet, maybe supplements. Give all of us who just can't get that number down some guidelines.
I wrote a book called Lowering LDL Naturally with Food. If you go to your local public library, you can get it on Amazon, ebook, audiobook. You go to nutritionfacts.org. By eating a whole food plant-based diet centered around whole plant foods, you are eliminating, or at least minimizing, the three things that increase your LDL cholesterol. And that's saturated fats, which are found not only in meat and dairy fats, but also in tropical oils like coconut oil, palm kernel oil, palm oil, which are found in junk food, and trans fats, which again found really only two places, which is animal foods and junk foods. And now that they've been eliminated from the U.S. food supply, at least, then it's really only found in animal foods. And then dietary cholesterol, which is found concentrated mostly in egg yolks, but also found throughout the animal product kingdom. And so by just cutting out or minimizing those three, you can get a dramatic drop in LDL cholesterol. The ideal level of LDL is as low as possible. The next step, which is what this book is all about, is adding foods that actively pull cholesterol from the system. This was originally envisioned as the portfolio diet out of the lab, University of Toronto, that came up with the glycemic index. They, at the time, this is over 20 years ago, there were 4 foods that found to, in these randomized controlled trials, proven to lower LDL cholesterol, and they did it through different mechanisms. So they had additive effects. And therefore, there's kind of this portfolio of different foods that lowered your LDL cholesterol. And that is the portfolio diet, which is a plant-based diet. So you get rid of the things that raise your cholesterol and then add these cholesterol-lowering foods.
And what are they?
And so at the time, the only 4 things that they had available were something called viscous fiber, which is a type of soluble fiber. This is the slimy, mucousy fiber found in things like oatmeal and ground flax seeds and eggplant and okra, that kind of thing. I have this daily dozen checklist of all the healthiest of healthy foods. I encourage people to fit into their daily routine. Like berries every day, the healthiest fruits, greens every day, the healthiest vegetables, on down the list. I want people to eat berries every day. Blackberries have particularly high levels of viscous fiber. So if you're trying to pull your LDL cholesterol down, instead of strawberries, pick blackberries to get that 20 grams fiber a day. If you don't even think about it and just follow the daily dozen, eat a whole food plant-based diet, you're going to hit about 14 grams of viscous fiber a day. And so then to fill up that 6 gap, again, you could either choose the foods particularly high, or if you don't even want to think about it, then you could add psyllium to your diet, which is what they put in Metamucil, but of course they also put artificial colors and flavors and garbage in it. So just straight psyllium husk powder. So it's a whole food plant-based diet with the added psyllium to get that 6 grams to take it from 14 up to 20. And so that was one of the 4 portfolio diet items. But it turns out in the 20-year since, there's a dozen other things we can add to your diet. Spices, garlic powder, tiny amounts, a little sprinkle, a little pinch, significantly lower LDL cholesterol. In fact, there were so many foods and spices and safe supplements that lowered LDL cholesterol, we had to have a cutoff. LDL is so dangerous that even 1 or 2 points is considered clinically meaningful. If there's something that lowers it 1 or 2 points, we should do that thing. So it'd have to be shown in randomized controlled trials to lower your LDL cholesterol by 10. I came up with 13 things overall, all of which are the most potent. Many of the supplements either aren't safe or aren't effective. I wrote this book specifically for those who wanted to add them either all in their diet or anything that was convenient to add in your diet. If you don't like apples, then you skip the apple, do something else. Incorporate as many as possible into our diet, because the lower the LDL, better, because it is the primary driver of our primary killer of both men and women, heart disease.
The other listeners wanted to know, what are your thoughts on olive oil? Is it yay or nay?
So it's certainly the least harmful oil. So if you're going to use oil for anything, that would be the oil to use. Oil is the most concentrated source of calories, 120 calories per spoonful. And so it's like, good God, for 120 calories, you know how much nutrition you can get without that's like multiple cups of blackberries or, all these. So it's the most calorie dense food. And so unfortunately, it's just kind of nutritionally dilute. You miss all the water soluble nutrients. So I encourage people to try to get their macronutrients, their protein, their fat, their carbohydrates from whole food sources, because then you get all the nutrition with it. So if you want high-fat foods, eat nuts and seeds and avocados and nut butters and sea butters. Oh, great. Normally you'd say, well, just eat the olive. Then you get all the nutrition. Unfortunately, because of the brining process, the amount of sodium in olives, a dozen or so olives would knock you over the American Heart Association recommendation for 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day or less. And so I encourage people to moderate their intake of brined foods.
We're talking about women, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Muscle loss, bone density. Bone loss is a real issue for women. And of course, we are proponents of lifting, weightlifting, and doing everything you can to really maintain your bone density or even possibly build it up. Foods play a very big part in this. So if people are to follow a whole foods, plant-based diet, how will they be getting enough protein specifically to help them with their muscle and bone issues and challenges?
The most critical thing is use it or lose it in terms of muscle mass. Resistance exercise, strength training is the most important thing we can do. In the context of sufficient protein, adding extra protein in the diets of older men and women actually does not accelerate, it does not improve muscle mass, muscle performance, or muscle strength, but you need enough protein, and that's 0.8 grams per healthy kilogram body weight, going up perhaps at age 65 to 1 gram per healthy kilogram body weight. So 0.8 is like 45 grams a day for the average height woman in the United States, which, is trivial to get on a whole food plant-based diet as long as you're not just eating lettuce all day or something. But I encourage people to eat legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils, the plant protein superstars, which are also the most concentrated source of dietary fiber to improve their microbiome and do all sorts of other wonderful things in the body.
What nutrients need special attention for women, like B12, vitamin D, calcium?
B12, critically important. So there are two nutrients. That are not made by plants. We should try to get all our nutrients from the produce aisle, not the supplement aisle. But there are two nutrients that are made there. One is vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, which is made by animals such as ourselves when we walk outside. Unfortunately, so many people these days are stuck inside a desk job and just not getting sufficient midday sun. It doesn't take much. If you have light enough skin and you get 10 minutes of forearms and face, maybe all you need, between 10 and 2. Then your latitude, depends on your season, depends on your skin color, depends on your weight. For those who get inadequate sun, I recommend 2,000 international units of vitamin D3 a day. So I have to take vitamin D. I don't get out much because I got lots of stuff to do.
You have a lot to do.
I got a lot to do, but I got to figure out how to do it outside if it doesn't wash out my laptop screen. But then that would be the way to do it. But the other, not made by animals, is vitamin B12. It's not made by plants or animals. It's made by little microbes that blanket the earth. So we used to get B12 drinking out of a mountain stream or well water, but now we chlorinate our water supply to kill off any bacteria. So don't get a lot of B12 in our water anymore. Don't get a lot of cholera either. That's a good thing. And we live in a nice sanitary world. We need to get B12 from somewhere. Our fellow great apes get all the B12 they need from bugs, dirt, and feces. I prefer supplements. So 2,000 micrograms of vitamin B12, cyanocobalamin, which is the most shelf-stable form, once a week to get all the B12 you need. However, over age 65, I encourage people to move to 1,000 micrograms once a day, just because our ability to absorb it declines with age. And that's actually the recommendation. So the recommendation from the Institute of Medicine, which is what determines The RDAs, the recommended daily allowances, the most prestigious medical body in the United States, National Academies, recommends that all people, 100% of people, regardless of what they eat, take vitamin B12 supplements after age 50.
Yeah.
People don't know this, but it's even more
No,
important for those eating
we'll
plant-based
make
diet,
sure
but
that they
everybody's
hear
supposed
that.
to.
We'll make sure everyone, you just
Great.
heard that.
Okay.
You have to
Yeah.
be taking that. And I'm sorry, omega-3s?
Oh, so omega-3 fatty acids, so long-chain omega-3. So there are short-chain omega-3 fats in walnuts and flax seeds and chia seeds and some other foods, and our body can elongate them into the long chain, like EPA and DHA. These are essential fatty acids. We can't make them. Fish can't make them either. They get it from little microalgae that builds up in the system. And we can too. We can get a pollutant-free source by getting an algae-based DHA supplement. So we may consider 250 milligrams a day of algae-based pollutant-free DHA, but mostly for cognitive health. Seems to be more an issue with older men rather than women, since women evolved to be better at that conversion process because they need to, earlier in life, create an entire brain from scratch, which is about 1/3 dry weight DHA.
Very interesting. Do you have any thoughts on creatine, which has become another kind of a hot thing?
Oh, yeah, sure. So in my book on healthy aging and longevity, I recommend creatine in conjunction with a resistance exercise to build up muscle mass. 3 grams a day without loading. I talk about contaminant concerns, and it only works in the context of resistance exercise. It allows you basically to do extra reps, and it's the extra reps that actually builds up your muscles, not the creatine itself. And it causes some bloating and some other issues, but I talk about the pros and cons and end up recommending it and how not to age.
So some women listening may be thinking, okay, all right, I've not done this. I want to do it. I want to get the book. I'm going to look at the documentary. I'm going to do it. I know it's time. I have to do it. But they may not be able to just be 100% in. What do you say people who are hybrid?
Oh my God, one need not make drastic changes, right? It's all or nothing. Even just basic common sense lifestyle factors can mean living literally a decade longer, right? Not smoking, not being obese, regular exercise, more fruits and vegetables. And it's never too late. It's never too late to start eating healthier, never too late to start moving. We really do have the power. It's really the day-to-day stuff that adds up. And on a day-to-day basis, really should try to eat healthy, which is centering our diets around real foods from fields, not factories.
Oh, thank you for that. It's not all or nothing.
The more, the better.
And the more, the better.
Smoking 19 cigarettes is better than smoking 20 cigarettes.
Dr. Greger, this was an amazing conversation. So helpful to me, so helpful to my audience. Before I let you go, what are your 3 biggest takeaways? 3 biggest ones.
I think it's important to recognize, look, it's your body, your choice, right? If you want to smoke cigarettes, go bungee jumping, not wear your seatbelt, right? It's up to each of us to make our own decisions as to what to eat and how to live, but we should make these choices consciously, right? Educating ourselves about the predictable consequences of our actions. And that's what my work is all about. The videos and nutrition facts are all my books. If you continue to eat like XYZ, this is what happens on average to people who do that. And then we can choose. And you could be like, oh, well, I don't care about that disease. I don't care if I get gallstones or kidney stones. But I really care about this. It's in my family or just for whatever reason. And so I'm going to do X, D, E, and F instead. That's really what it's all about. And taking control and just realizing we really do have that control. That's the critical thing. And then whether we want to take advantage of that or not is really up to us. And if there were just 3 foods, I encourage people to add to their diets first. It would be berries, the healthiest fruits, dark green leafy vegetables, particularly cruciferous vegetables like kale and collards, which are the most healthy vegetables, and also the healthiest source of protein, legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils. Eat some hummus. We should try to encourage to get those every day. And if there were just 3 things I would first remove from one's diet, it'd be anything with trans fats, processed meat, bacon, ham, hot dogs, lunch meats, sausages. The number 1 cancer killer among non-smokers, not breast cancer, it is colorectal cancer. And these are known human carcinogens. And then number 3 would be liquid candy, a soda. We should try to get sugar-sweetened beverages out of our life.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. And everyone, check out the show notes. All of the links for all of these books and other information will be in the show notes. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. See you next week.
Keep up the great work.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better Podcast, please do a few things. First, Share it with all your friends and family. Then subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this: we can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.